This is going to be probably, this is up to now, this is my most hesitant video. So we're going to be primarily focusing on income, what we've made over a lifetime. I don't know if this video will come out as I record it. I think I kind of have to. I kind of feel like I need to. I mean, I don't feel uncomfortable with the expense side. Obviously, that's not too. You can't do too much at the expense side, but and the expense side is going to be a lot of work, like figuring out how do we calculate expenses, how do we do things like that. Income again is another one of those. It's kind of like the 401k. The income side is kind of like, hey, here's how much money we made over the years. I mean, for any retirement, it has two factors, right? Income and expenses. And when you retire, your income goes away, but it's good to know it. I feel like I have to present to you what our income was, to be fair, because it's going to be this half that you don't know about. I'm going to be doing expenses, and you're going to be like, "Oh wow, like hey, that's amazing." Steve and Beth made X, and they spent Y, but you don't really know that, right? If I make $1 million per year and I spend 50,000 a year or 100,000 a year, then you may think that's amazing, but you don't know the income side. Then once you find out the income side, you're like, well, shoot, anybody could have done that. So I will probably publish this. The other thing that makes me hesitant to do this video is I don't want you like I said this before. Some people are going to make more than me and Beth. Some people are going to make less than Beth and I. I don't want you to be discouraged. This is part of my channel, is giving you the realistic view of what it took for me to retire and what our plans are. And I just feel like you have to see these two sides. So if you make less, don't be discouraged, because I'm going to do the expense side too. If you make more, awesome. You should be retired by now already, a lot younger than us. So without further ado, I'm just going to get into it. Like I said, a little uncomfortable. I'm just going to treat it like numbers. So I'm just showing you our half, right? So this is my piece. I was a software developer. This is Beth's piece. She is a teacher, third grade teacher. So all through my years, if you look through this is kind of what I made. You can see it gradually gets better and better. Right out of college, I was in Colorado, so I wasn't making tons. I didn't need to make as much. It also, as I moved to the East Coast, like it takes a lot more to make it in the tri-state area, meaning New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut, than it did in Colorado. It was just easier. I probably wouldn't have had to saved as much as if I stayed in Colorado. So for a few of these years I was in Colorado. It's funny, I thought it bumped up a lot more when I moved to New Jersey, but it really didn't bump up that much more. I guess they screwed me over, which is one of my regrets. One of my regrets is I think this could have been better if I had jumped ship. I spent way too much time. 20 years at Jeffries was just too much time. Even though they treated me pretty well, but I should have left. I think most people should do that. You should. I mean, as you get older, it gets harder. So when I started getting into my mid 50s, like I said, I don't want to prove myself again. I didn't want to have to I just didn't want to start all over again. And I was never the boss. I ran teams and stuff like that, but I always coded. I always worked hard. I could do anything that people who worked for me could do, I could do. That's kind of what hosed me sometimes too, because they would lay people off that worked for me, knowing that I could just do the job. And so eventually I became almost a one-man team. And then they offshored a lot of work, and I ended up running the offshore team as well. But so if you look at just like the pattern, in Colorado, well, as we're younger and stuff like that, making less. And then I went to work as an independent consultant. Well, it was a consulting firm with like 15 people, probably the worst job I ever had. And that was for 2 years. Then I went for work for a small tech boutique, a small M&A. We did tech M&As. And that was probably the best. That was the funnest job I ever had. But in 2000, I don't remember when the tech crash occurred, but it was right in here somewhere. And and so they just eventually had to sell the company. So that when we and really when you look at it, the it was pretty good for me, right? Because in Broadview, I was making it was starting to go down. This was like the greatest because this year they gave us that was the first year ever. Like I'd be walking down the hall and the CEO would be like, "Hey, Steve, how you doing?" Because there was only a couple hundred of us. I think our highest number was 400. Um, but this year was amazing because they were so nice because they knew everybody. That's what was so great. You felt like you were part of a family. So one of the we got our bonuses because all ever since I went to Broadview, which is 2000, because it was a financial firm, we would always get a year-end bonus, and but we would get it usually in January, or something like that. So one year, one of our partners said, "You know what? People who support us do a great job. Let's just do another bonus." So we got another bonus in February. It was I remember the guy's name was Robert McNamara, such a nice guy. But so that's why that went up. But if you look at just the numbers, it went pretty good. When I moved to Jeffries, they moved it up. Being in the financial, generally you see an upward trend, which is fair. But there were years, see, like this year when it went down. Oh, that's another thing I was thinking the other two is I never stopped giving to my 401k, even in the bad times and bad things that happen, you just keep going. So this is generally my pattern. At the end, I was making like roughly 200,000 one year, which is this year, this 2023. I got hosed out of a bonus for some stupid reason, but which when I quit Jeffries, I kind of let him know that it was very upsetting, and it was probably one of the reasons why I even left a little earlier than I had planned. This is low because I worked through March of that year, so you get your bonus in January. So I got the bonus and I got the March. Um, so over here, and this is Beth. This is what she makes. So this is roughly what she makes as a teacher. It's been pretty consistent. She worked as a New York teacher. And that was like her first real job. I mean, she had a job working for March Dimes, but that wasn't her professional job. What she wanted to do was be a teacher. So she became a teacher in 1992. She got her first job. I actually think that's when I met her too. It was in this range, in this period. So, she was cranky. And then at 30, when we had Zachary, or she decided to stay at home. I mean, when I was 30, she was probably 31. And then she worked like a couple months here, and then she just stopped working. I don't know what this $12 was she made it, but so that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then what she did is she went subbing, which is just lame, because you're getting these calls. You get you get the call that morning, so like 5:30 in the morning. Oh, Beth, can you sub today? And it was just in the salary, as you can see, was horrible. She wouldn't work all the days. She'd get some days. It's not like she was subbing five days a week. And then she got a couple long-term subs, which is why you see that it starts to go up consistently, because they would bring her in for for like a whole teacher for a whole year, like a maternity. Somebody who's going out on maternity, and they bring in her to teach the class, and that rate was much higher. And that's usually the teacher track. You sub, and then from subbing, you get like long term subs for like a year, year, 2 years, whatever, and then you get I don't know, they hire you. I guess your tenure track job. That's what they called it, tenure track. So she finally hit tenure in 2013. We actually ended up finding out, which helped me retire a little earlier, is that even in these years, they were counting some of that towards her retirement. So it actually helped for her pension. So you'll see that just a notable difference. That's when it went up significantly. And then it was just, I don't know why it got lower. That's really interesting to find that out. I don't know why it would have gotten lower, because it consistently gets higher and higher and higher. Yeah, I don't know, to find out. I mean, it doesn't break the bank. It's only $7,000, but it is interesting. So it could have been union dues. It could have been health care. Oh, maybe that's what it was. It could have been health care, because at one point Jersey started requiring that teachers pay more of their health care. So that may have accounted for that number in there, why it was less. And then this is just informative stuff, like how, what we contributed to our 401k throughout all those years. just to show consistency. The one thing I was kind of curious on that I had never done until this video is I was really curious. So in my mind, I wasn't even sure if my different jobs, which is why I encourage people to take different jobs or to cycle into different jobs more rapidly. I think you just make more money because companies just tend to screw you over if you stay there. I don't know why. It's a shame. That's another reason why I think salary information should be public across the board within the company. So that if you're sitting next to Bozo the clown and he's not doing anything or she's not doing anything, then and you find out their salary is like more than yours, then you can go to your boss and say, listen, I need, when they keep it all secret, it becomes all arbitrary. My son has a really good comp structure where it's very clearly defined. My comp structures have always been, like bonuses, you really don't know how they're coming up with them. It's not like they say, okay, this is how much the company made and you get X percent. It could be, hey, my boss loves me, so I get a much bigger bonus than the guy next to me because the guy next to me doesn't talk to the boss as much. I don't know. It was completely arbitrary, which drove me crazy. My son works for a company where two of my sons that are in bonus structures. It's just crystal clear. Here's your title. Here's what we made at the company. This is your bonus. So I think that's a great thing. I think that's how it should be everywhere. But anyhow, all that aside. So what I was looking at was, hey, in 1998, because that's kind of when I went consulting and I had a pretty big bump in pay. So the funny thing is, I thought I made 100 grand when I was consulting. Apparently not. It sucked because the company was really cheap. There was only like, I don't know, there's only 20 of us in the whole company, and this lady owned it. And like, you didn't really get vacation days. They gave you an hourly rate, and then when you took time off, but that's not the rub. The rub is when they didn't have work for you, you had to take time off. So it was just so bad. And whenever you went to a conference, they wouldn't pay you and they wouldn't pay the cost of the conference. So it's like, great. That was hence why I only worked there 2 years. So what I did is I took this somewhat big bump in pay and I inflationed it and said, hey, what would it be in today? So if I got nothing but inflation raises the whole time, what would it have been? So like I said, I didn't go crazy, and I can't compare it to 2024 because I didn't work the whole year. I mean, I could get fancy and to multiply it by 0.75%, but whatever. It was more of a fun question. So you'll see, it looks like I pretty much kept up with inflation with $25,000 extra. So if you look at that, and that's 25,000 of 200,000 is like 1/8. So that's probably like what, 12%, 12 times 8 is 96. So maybe 12%. So over all these years, if you take out inflation, essentially I got a 12% raise, 12% yearly. So that was an interesting question to ask. So it had me curious. So that is about it. Oh, we wanted to look at some totals too. I figured that'd be interesting too. So this also includes my teenage years and best teenage years too. So if you look at this, like our total was 5,523,000, which is kind of interesting, right? That's what we made our entire lives. Beth did some off the book stuff, watching kids, stuff like that during these years. When she wasn't making any money, she would babysit some kids, make some extra scratch, so to speak. But so I don't know. I thought that was an interesting stat. It's like my whole life, my wife and I's whole life thus far is 5.5 million, and we have probably, and you'll see this breakdown too. We have probably like 1.8 million in, not including the house, in somewhat liquid assets. So a little part of me, and great, you're going to see, I'm a little nutty about this. So you're going to see expenses ad nauseum and planning ad nauseum when I start getting into it and show you how I do it. But if you were just doing a completely off the cuff statement, which believe me, I'm not, and I'm not encouraging anyone to do that. If you took how it took to live, whatever it is, 50, well, you can't count 50 years. Let's see here. Let's go. How many rows is this? This is 44 rows. So to live 44 years with kids and insurance and all that, it took 5 million, 0.2, and we have 1.8. So we're, a little, maybe like 40%. So that's not bad. That's not bad. And I didn't get Social Security. I never got I never got really any kind of workman's comp or anything like that never really took any government money. So, so that's not bad. But like I said, we're going to get into a lot more of how do I know that's going to work. So that is the income stuff. Um, it's not meant to be anything really. I just honestly felt like if I was going to show you the expense side, for me to give you a realistic presentation of how we retired, you kind of need to see the income side too, because that's the two big things, right? How much money, and we may even get into we saved a fair amount. This doesn't even count Beth's 401k. So if you put in Beth's 401k, she started when she was tenured, I think, something like that. Maybe the year after tenure. Maybe I gave her 2 years. It would be like 16, 1, 2, 3. Control C, and then she just continued to do it, I think, up to 2003. So if you put that through, yeah, 144,000. That sounds about right, because she's got 200,000 in her 401k. So, and yeah, and she has a pension too. But we'll get into that's all going to be kind of in the retirement planning thing. I'm just trying to line up the pieces for you. So you're going to see the income, and then we'll do an expenses, and then we'll do maybe expenses pre-retirement, do expenses after retirement, and then how we take those expenses and put them into a tool that helps my wife and I, helps Beth and I manage retirement and how we manage our accounts and stuff like that. So thanks for your time. I can't believe I'm saying this. If it was good, hit subscribe or hit the thumbs up. I can't believe I'm even saying that. So have yourself a great day, and thanks for your time.